The Pharisees, we're told in today's gospel passage, had made that trip to the Sea of Galilee all the way from Jerusalem. That is not like going from here to Earlton. That is a long trek for them. And it wasn't for the love of God or God's law that drove them. They went out solely to trap Jesus and to undermine his influence on the people. And those Pharisees, the religious leaders of their day, they don't really even confront him directly. They make an attack on his disciples. And though we know the Pharisees for their antagonism of Jesus, as religious leaders, they were really supposed to be helping the people by living the law handed to them from Moses. Both written and oral laws, the tradition of the elders, were supposed to be sacred to them. Both of them were seen as gifts from God that would give life and everyday wisdom. So when they see Jesus' disciples violating required ceremonial cleansing, they conclude that Jesus is allowing that breach of proper observances. Now, let's just think a little bit about the tradition of the elders. This was a set of customs observed by the elite who lived in big cities, like Jerusalem or Manhattan. They were the 1%ers of their time. However, the Pharisees required that everybody observe those practices. The washings discussed in today's passage, they have nothing to do about hygiene. They were ceremonial ritual. And such ceremonial washings were very difficult for average people who lived in the countryside because water was scarce. So the common folk, instead, they shifted a bit and followed an adaptation of the elder tradition in order to fit their daily life. And while Jesus acknowledges the authority of the law, he does not place the elder interpretation on an equal level with the law, like the Pharisees did. Instead, Jesus advocates adapted observances. And the Pharisees see this as a direct challenge of their authority. They treated the law as a source of power over others, a way to feel superior over ordinary people, a way to gloat and profit. And Jesus saw that the Pharisees turned the law into something that harms rather than heals. And this is not the last time in our history that those in religious authority have exercised an abuse of power. We are once again being rocked by abusive actions by those few who were in a position of religious authority. And I have heard from several of you over the last couple of weeks that, like you are filled with great sadness and anger in some cases. But you know what? That's okay. Go ahead. Be angry. Be sad. Even be disgusted. But let's do it rightly. Let us not walk away in disgust, but let us instead channel that anger by leading all through our example of how it is to be true disciples of our Lord. Because that's what we all are by virtue of our baptism. Disciples. It's funny. Disciples are usually called upon to be the students. But now, in the midst of this abusive climate, as we grow day by day in our discipleship, We are now called to be the leaders. In our Eucharistic celebration today, we're just like those people in the crowd that Jesus gathered and who were formed by him into being disciples. We are gathered here to hear his word. And we might even be intimidated by what we hear him asking us. But the food that we receive at this table, that helps us to grow in determination. We have his summons, his call to hear me. In today's gospel passage, Jesus invites us to hear me, all of you, and understand. In his teaching, he emphasizes the moral, not the ritual uncleanness, that's the issue. The Pharisees are indicted because of what's in their hearts and what comes out from those hearts. Because for Jesus, the issue, as always, is what's within. In the scriptures, the heart is the seat of all feelings, passions, and knowledge. It is in the heart where humans meet God. It is in the heart where we hear the word. It is in the heart where we speak directly to God. And the condition of the heart reflects the quality of our relationship with God. It is the heart which is the source of all of our actions. And because we are disciples, when our hearts are lined up with God, our acts must show that. Jesus, in this passage, is calling us to leave behind the ways that are not of God and to choose the ways that he points out directly to us. He really wants a change of heart. That's what needs to be cleansed and purified. He wants us to think and work out of a heart which is fully loyal to God, turned away from the old ways to a new place that's all about love and service to others in God's name. And so our task this day and in the days to come is to think about, where is our heart these days? Where do we find it residing? To those who follow Jesus and accept his ways, they will go directly to the very heart of the matter.